13, and the theme of the session is energy security. So we are delighted to inform you that we have our chair, Dr. Helal Ahmed, Professor and Dean, School of Business and Economics, North-South University, Bangladesh. As discussant, we have Dr. Saqib bin Amin, Associate Professor, Department of Economics, North-South University, Bangladesh. So we have actually 5 presenters. One presentation will be done by 2 presenters. So, and we have 2 online presentations. So I am announcing the name of the presenters. So Dr. Oleg Mariev, Dr. Kaji Shohag, Mr. Sadril Shahjahan, Mr. Muhammad Faizul Islam, and lastly, Mr. Muhammad Monirul Islam. So now I humbly request Dr. Helal Ahmed sir to take over the session. Thank you.
A very good afternoon to you all. A very good afternoon to you all. I know it's late in the afternoon, and we have very scrumptious, very wholesome lunch and a very exciting panel discussion. So I'm pretty delighted with the attendance here. As Ms. Isra suggested, I'm going to chair this session, and I was allotted about 5 minutes, I guess, to make some introductory comments. Energy, I must admit, I'm not an energy economist or energy expert by training, but by profession. So in my earlier life, I spent about 15 odd years in climate change policy development, was involved in global modeling, involving Stanford and MIT and other biggies. So through that process, as I come to know a little bit about energy, so excuse my indulgence or exuberance if I overstep, right? So, and climate change and energy are very interlinked, right? So I'm I should say I'm very privileged and very delighted to be able to listen to you in this session. And I also welcome you all, which is going to be a very interesting and exciting session. As the MC has already suggested, there are 4 papers, and 2 of the papers will be presented online, and the remaining 2 here in person. And so we will be switching between online and offline, right? So just to check with you, the online one would be presented in sequence, and then we move on to the in-person one, or what is the order? The order is laid out here.
So you can follow the order laid out here, or you can do as you wish.
Right. Any preference from your end? No? I think mixing would be a good way of going forward, because both online will lose our attention at some stage. We are human beings after all, right? So I'll probably, those who are online, are they already online? Have you confirmed it? So a big hello from Dhaka to those who are in Russia, I think. Dr. Oleg Mariev, and who else is going to present online? Kaji Shohag. Okay, so if I take the chair's prerogative to invite Dr. Oleg Mariev to make a presentation, and I'm just wondering whether you can hear us all right, Dr. Mariev.
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Fantastic. You got a very fantastic background out there, very sunny and bright. And so,
thank you.
do I have to introduce yourself, or it's already there in the program? So I will probably go straight to you in the interest of time to make your presentation.
Okay, thank you. Let me share the screen. Can you see? Can you see my presentation?
It's perfect. I'm too close to the big screen, but it looks fine. Great.
Okay, good. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to present the topic devoted to the role of China's rare earth element supply for the energy transition process in Europe. The presentation is divided into three major parts. We will start with the motivation of the study, then we will discuss the methodological framework, and finally we will focus on empirical conclusions and policy implications. The motivation of the research is based on the three crucial facts. First of all, the achievement of environmental goals in European countries relies heavily on mineral products. Rare earth elements and non-ferrous metals play an important role in the production of alternative energy technologies. During the next 3 decades, the implementation of the European Union's Green Plan will be responsible for unprecedented demand for mineral products. Second, due to the absence of natural resources necessary for the production of technologies for the energy transition, European countries are heavily dependent on imported mineral products. European economies are concerned about import dependency due to the following facts. First, production of mineral products is concentrated, which strongly limits the list of possible suppliers and restricts the possibility of diversifying supply chains. Second, generally, the suppliers of mineral resources are developing countries which are highly exposed to macroeconomic turbulence and political risks, which makes them unreliable suppliers. Third, trade in mineral products also faces trade restrictions such as import tariffs, which make it more expensive to produce green technologies. Third, the most serious dependence of the Europe is observed in the case of imports of rare earth elements and non-ferrous metals from China. For example, Chinese economy is the source of 99% of light rare earth elements and 98% of heavy rare earth elements, as well as the significant share of magnesium, lithium, and scandium. The geopolitical risks faced by the Chinese economy may act an important constraint to the implementation of European Union's efforts on energy transition and the production of green energy technologies. Given the motivation of this study, it is important to examine the role of imports of rare earth elements from China for the transition of European countries to alternative energy sources, in particular wind and solar energy, in the context of geopolitical tensions. The study answers the research questions using the gravity model of international trade estimated with the quantile via moments approach. The robustness of the empirical results is confirmed with the help of Driscoll and Cray technique. The research makes the contribution into the existing literature by offering valuable insights for advancing clean energy transformation in Europe in the context of economic turbulence and geopolitical risks. We are moving to the next section, which is the discussion of methodological framework. We analyze the responsiveness of rare earth elements imports from China to solar and wind energy production in 14 European countries over the last 30 years. For the purpose of the analysis, we augment the traditional version of gravity model and control for economic growth of European countries, distance between China and trade partner, export prices of rare earth elements, oil price, global and Chinese geopolitical risks. Our estimation procedure includes the following stages. First, we present descriptive statistics, check for the presence of cross-sectional dependency and unit root problem, and estimate slope homogeneity. Second, we apply quantiles via moment technique, providing information on the impact of regressors across the entire conditional distribution. Third, we check the robustness of quantile via moments methodology by estimating the model with Driscoll and Cray approach, which address heteroscedasticity, cross-sectional dependency, and or autocorrelation issues. So from descriptive statistics and pre-estimation test, we reveal that heteroscedasticity, cross-sectional dependency, slope heterogeneity, and mixed order of integration are common issues for our data set. These findings confirm the relevance of our methods, quantile via moments and Driscoll-Cray methods application here. The second stage of estimation implies application of quantiles via moments technique to explore the relationship between China's export of rare earth elements and the solar energy generation in European economies, considering the global and local geopolitical risks. From table 1, we observe positive association between Chinese export of rare earth elements and solar energy production in the presence of global geopolitical tensions. In this model, export prices of rare earth elements, oil prices, and distance have a significant positive impact on China's rare earth exports, while Chinese and trade partners' GDP affect negatively. A similar association is observed between exports of rare earth elements and solar energy in the context of Chinese geopolitical risks. These findings strongly suggest that solar energy heavily relies on rare earth elements from China for the manufacturing of technologies such as solar photovoltaics and solar panels. So Chinese economy contributes to the implementation of environmental goals in European countries through the development of solar energy, even in the presence of geopolitical risks. The findings of a positive correlation between solar energy production and rare earth elements imports from China under global and local geopolitical risks are also confirmed when we include the economic size in the model. Moreover, table 3 and table 4 show that there is a negative relationship between multiplicative economic growth and rare earth element exports from China from medium to extreme quantiles. This observation can be attributed to the disruption of supply chains and logistics operations in commodity trade. Geopolitical risks, in particular, tend to disrupt supply chains and logistics, thereby creating problems for exporting countries in getting their goods to importing markets. At the second stage, we also scrutinize the nexus between wind energy production and export of Chinese rare earth elements to European countries. We control for the influence of global and local geopolitical risks as well. In the case of
Maria,
solar
we got 1 minute to wrap up, kindly.
Okay, thank you. I will try. In the case of solar energy production, there is a strong positive correlation between wind energy production and the supply of rare earth elements from China in the presence of geopolitical risks. These findings implies that rare earth elements from China are commonly utilized in wind energy production for various purposes. These elements, along with materials like copper and aluminum, play a crucial role in ensuring the efficient operation of wind turbines. From tables 7 and 8, which represent the models with multiplicative GDP, we also conclude that the Chinese rare earth exports hold significant importance in the wind energy production of European countries. European nations heavily depend on this export for their wind energy products. Besides, we detect a negative correlation between multiplicative economic growth and rare earth element export from China, while oil and rare earth element prices have a positive impact on export volumes. At the first stage of our analysis, we carry out robustness check by estimating our empirical models with Driscoll and Cray methodology, which considers cross-sectional dependency issue. This approach strongly confirms our empirical results from the quantile wire moments technique. We can summarize our conclusions in the following way. The study reveals that production of solar and wind energy in European nations is heavily reliant on import of rare earth elements from China. However, geopolitical tensions could pose a risk to the sustainability of rare earth element supplies and the implementation of alternative energy projects in European countries. In this case, European countries should be careful about their dependence on China for rare earth components. Policymakers need to develop strategies to mitigate potential supply disruptions of rare earth elements. Thus, by establishing a strategy focusing on the diversification of rare earth element supply chains, European economies can effectively mitigate the potential negative effects. One policy option is to promote the development of renewable energy technologies that depend on imports of rare earth elements through grants, subsidies, and tax breaks for companies engaged in sustainable practices and technologies. Finally, European countries should invest in the exploration and extraction of critical mineral elements within its own territory to reduce reliance on imports and to ensure a secure supply chain.
Thank you very much, Professor.
Yeah, thank you. That's all from my side. Thank you very much for your attention.
Yeah. Thank you. I know we're talking about sort of transitioning into renewable energy and alternative energy to deal with our climate change issues to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and all that. And you can, from this paper, you have sort of a sense that it is not as easy as we recommend or we suggest, because end of the day, on the ground, the supply where the key ingredients or key materials are coming from and how monopoly power they can exert or market power they can exert, that makes a difference as well. So thank you very much, Professor Maria, for suggesting what are the alternative strategies the government can undertake. Now, in the interest of time, if I can go straight and true to my earlier strategy to mix online and offline presentation, may I ask now Mr. Sadril Shahjahan and Mr. Faizul Islam to present your paper. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Adril Shahjahan, and I have with my colleague Mr. Faizul Islam. As you see, this paper is more like a work in progress, and we have 4 authors here. 2 of my co-authors are Mr. M.D. Ghulam Mustafa and Ms. Oishojya Roy. And we are all employed by Center for Entrepreneurship Development of Breakout University, and we are presenting the paper from the data of digital platform Mapped in Bangladesh. It's a project of CED which is being implemented since 2017 with the funding, and currently it is being funded by Lourdes Foundation and ZIZ. We picked renewable energy as it has very much intense focus on the policies like Mujib Climate Prosperity Plan, National Adaptation Plan, NDC, Net Metering Guideline, and Renewable Energy Policy in Bangladesh. And different initiative has been taken, but we are focusing on the research question to what extent RMG factories in Bangladesh have adopted renewable energy. And previous findings shows that basically the large farms tend to adopt renewable energy than smaller farms. We did a qualitative study, and we published it in Routledge book series, which shows that renewable energy in Bangladesh RMG industry is going through a transition. And there is also another study from BKMEA which shows that different energy efficient machines are being set up by factories. So these are the recent initiatives regarding the renewable energy from RMG sites, such as EatCall has a plan to raise US dollar to 250 million for the garment industry. There is also Renewable Energy Policy of Bangladesh 2008, which is being currently revised. There is also another platform called IFC's Pact, and we do have the LEED certified green factories that is 206 in Bangladesh currently. And there is also net metering policy. There is also the OPEX model and CAPEX model on which factories are adopting renewable energy. And we do have an initiative that through which integration is being made on where factories can contribute to national grid. There is also been an initiative to create a rooftop solar policy by SREDA. And BGMA has its own Sustainability Vision 2030, which has target for renewable energy. So our methodology is fully quantitative. We picked data from Mapped in Bangladesh. It has been collecting data since 2018, but from 2023, its second phase started, which addition of collecting environmental data. Previously, it's collected very much basic data from the factories, which I'll be showing in the next slide. And it has been collecting data from cluster to cluster. For example, on its second phase, it has collected and covered the Dhaka district, from which we prepared this conference paper. And we have just one data point when it comes to the renewable energy, which shows that whether the RMG factories are using a solar panel or not. So this is the overall snapshot of MIB, and you can also see the overall snapshot of export-oriented RMG factories in Bangladesh, because Mapped in Bangladesh is basically a census-based project. It is conducting a factory census. It has so far 3,800 factories in its map. It's a digital map, and it's open for everyone. Already a lot of users are using it, and users from 189 countries are using it. And we do have data on the supply chain, membership status, factory type, and the workers. and the later part will be presented by my colleague, Mr. Faisal.
Okay. Thank you, Sadril. So I can take over from this slide. So actually, Sadril mentioned that we just asked one question, whether the factory use solar panel or not, and we see this, the scenario in terms of the premises type, the basic information of factory. If you see that the almost 326 factories adopted renewable energy out of 1,288 factories, which is 25% of total factory. If we see that the premises type is actually the factory in our country, the garments factory actually situated in the Eastern Island buildings and the shared building. So if you see the shared building, definitely the shared building has less percentage because the Eastern Island buildings has the opportunity to take initiative for taking the solar panel. And if we see the factory type, we split it in open, neat, and sweater and mixed. The mixed is actually those factories are open and neat, and the sweater also those mixed kind of procedure or process. So if you see this category, in Dhaka, open factories is larger in number and the mixed is lower. And for solar adaptation, the open factory is highest number and the sweater factory is lowest. If we see the adaptation of solar energy in a factory size, which is in terms of worker, we split it in 4 categories: micro level, small level, medium, and large. The micro level is those factories have 1 to 25 workers, and the small is 26 to 120, and the medium level is 121 to 1,000 worker, and the large is larger than the 1,000 worker. Here we see that in Dhaka, medium categories, this factory is larger than the other part, and the micro is very small portion out of 1,288 factories. If you see that the percentage for solar energy adaptation, micro level is only 2.56%, definitely because they are most vulnerable factories, and the large is 56%. So it's good sign for our country. The larger factory are adapting the solar energy. If you see that in your membership wise, we split it in also 4 types. The only BZME, only BKME, both the BZME and BKME member, and the non-member factories. We know that the BZME and BKME our trade apex in our country for RMG sector. We see that in Dhaka area, definitely the BZME member are more adopting the solar, 35%, almost 36%, and the non-member factories is only 8.83%, because we know that the non-member factory who are not member of BZMA and BKMA trade bodies, so they are more like the adopting their solar panel by their own interest, not any regulatory body are actually monitoring them. So maybe that's the reason. We are not sure at all at this moment. So in this, actually our research paper is actually the working paper. So it will contribute further research and also contribute the policy maker to take decision which type of factory actually adapting solar energy or which are not. And also our project will contribute to this research further, because we are trying to capture some point which is not only that the percentage are adopting, also the percentage of actually the contribution of solar energy or total energy, because we know that maybe the larger factories is 56%, but the percentage of solar, percentage of energy, total energy, the contribution of solar is very less. So if we want to know, then it will give you the good picture for total energy sector. So thank you everyone.
Thank you, Mrs. Shahjahan and Islam. Very interesting work in progress. I know there has been discussion about putting some border taxes on carbon contents of exportables from other countries into Europe and in other developed countries, the markets where we send our garments. And if there is a good transition into renewable energy, we can avoid those kind of market barriers and entry to those countries' market. So also, this is a very promising study, drawing on a lot of primary data. It will unfold or unpack what are the key drivers for different types, different sizes, and also market orientation. So I wish you all the best, and I'm sure our audience will be delighted to ask you a few questions at the end. Now, again, going back to the mix and match strategy, now may I ask Dr. Kaji Shohag to make his presentation online. Are you there, Dr. Shohag?
Yeah. Yes, I'm here. All right. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, it's very clear. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and it's my pleasure to be with you. I wish I could join in person. I tried, but somehow the circumstance didn't allow me. Anyway, today the topic I'm going to present entitled, How Far Does OECD Countries' Environmental Policy Stringency Curve from Their Reliance on Russian Energy? Dose response analysis. The topic itself, to some extent, is very important given the ongoing conflict. So basically, we are motivated by a number of propositions to conduct this study. The first is that in this modern economy, as energy is the bloodline, so we can see that geopolitics and the concentration of energy in different countries are highly interlinked, as we can see that turbulence in Middle East, or while exporting country like OPEC, like Venezuela. As for Russia, non-OPEC member country, but probably the second largest energy exporter in the global market. So Russian energy plays a very big role in different countries' development, especially the industrial development. So the best example can be like Germany. Right now, it is second largest economy. That their industrialization flourished due to the cheap Russian energy that used to go through the pipeline, for example, Nord Stream pipeline. So probably the findings of my study is less relevant right now because of the sample period of the time. So I use the data till 2021. But right now, many OECD countries, they stop buying Russian energy due to the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine. But I'm sure that it will give some kind of a understanding that how far their climate policies or Green Deal help to curb the dependency on the Russian energy, since they have a enormous policy adoption to promote renewable energies. So if you look in the policy stringency, basically, when you talk about the renewable energy, probably it may not work without any regulation under market economic structures. The reason is that there is an ongoing technology. So if the people, individual or the firms, they get cheaper energy, whether it is fossil fuel or coal or gas, which can be cheaper than renewable energy. So then individual has a less incentive to switch to renewable energy. Therefore, the policy is needed because this kind of economic growth is associated with the heavy externalities. So therefore, the policy are required. So these policies can be divided into two types. One is the market-based and non-market-based. So the market-based, also it can be command and control. So they can give some kind of a embargo or quota that you cannot emit this kind of emissions. So this policy at the same time it not necessarily always can promote, since every policies in the market economy can create some kind of distortions. So this is very plausible research questions whether these policies stringency, whether they could somehow curb the energy dependency on Russia. So I give this picture only for the G7 countries, their environmental policy stringency. The policy stringency is devised from the OECD think tank. This policy is indexed from 0 to 5. So higher the value, meaning the higher the policy stringencies. So including carbon tax and other policies and promoting renewable energy in the local sources. So this is the data for the reliance on the Russian energy is very new data. There is probably no empirical studies so far. This data is developed by American energy agencies. So this data basically shows that the country, OECD countries, the share of imported energy from Russia. So you can see that some of the countries, the reliance is very high. So this is the sum of mainly the three energies. One is oil, coal, and gas, and the summation of these three types of energies.
Just to
So
advise
some of
you
the
that
countries like
we are
Bulgaria,
halfway through. So you have to finish in about 5 minutes.
Oh, all right, yes. So Lithuania, Latvia, where the dependency is very high, also in Germany as well. So we also have studies supported by the couple of theories with the substitution effect theory, the pollution heaven hypothesis, and Porter hypothesis. The substitution effect is very simple, that when this fossil fuels is the more cheaper than renewable energy. So if the government put some tax like a carbon tax, then it will not be cost efficient, so that the firm can or individual can switch from fossil fuel to renewable energy. And for pollution haven hypothesis, like when if export is driven by the fossil fuel industry, then the external economic externality can augment it significantly, like in the case of Bangladesh, for example, the ready-made garments industry. So anyway, so this is the data we have taken. So the main dependent variable is the import of oil, natural gas, and coal, which is the share of total energy that a country is using. And main treatment variable is environmental policy stringencies. That's a complex variable that's coming from the all type of policy that OECD country undertaken. We also consider some covariant, which is GDP growth, trade openness, human capital, labor, and level of technology, and local source of renewable energy. And we apply dose response function, which is a recent method. So probably most of you know that when you do the causal inference, we apply the traditional method like GID or propensity score matching. But when the treatment variable is like a binary, but in often we see that treatment variable can be continuous variable. For example, if you want to see the impact of vaccine, COVID vaccine. So those people have taken one dose is not comparable to the people who have taken two doses. So that's why the dose response function come into this picture to see when the treatment variable is continuous. So this is the main result. We can see that the total energy. So in this diagram, the first one is the quadratic function, and second one the treatment effect function. So meaning that treatments, the horizontal line shows that the treatment level from 0 to 5. So the 5 is the highest level of policy stringency, and 0 is the lowest, meaning no policy stringency. They're comparing the two countries, those who are importing from Russian energy and those who are not. So we can see that when a country policy stringency from 0 to 2, they sharply reduce the dependency on Russian energy. Then when the policy stringency exceeds 2, then it's become insignificant effect. As for the oil, impact on oil imports is relatively the consistent result with the overall energy. As for the gas, we can see from 0 to 2 is the sharply decline the reliance on Russian gas. Then when it exceeds from 2 to 5, we can see somewhat it is a positive impact, because it can be the main reason behind of this result probably that natural gas is considered as a transitional energy, which is less pollutant than coal or oil. And in terms of the coal, this is very surprising findings, is that the treatment effect of this policy is that is a positive, meaning the reliance on Russian coal is increased. So we look into the data that what actually happened. We see that number of countries, though they have taken a lot of policies like Cyprus, like Denmark, Lithuania probably. So their policy stringency increased, but their dependence on the Russian coal remains same, even increased. So this is how the result is showing.
You have
So
1
the
minute to
conclusion
finish.
is that
The final minute.
yeah. I'm done. So the conclusion is that this policy stringency somewhat is effective to reduce the reliance on Russian energy, but not fully. With a very slower pace, because probably the earlier speaker, my colleague, was saying that to fully transition to renewable energy can be very challenging due to the rare earth or many other elements like copper or nickels or very critical minerals, those who are very concentrated in the few countries. Once again, Russia, Chile, Australia, China, Indonesia. So geopolitical risk and trade policies are very vital, crucial for carving towards the energy transitions. Thank you very much. I had very limited time, so if you have any questions, I will be open for you to answer.
Thank you. Thank you for finishing in time. And again, another paper suggesting that, yeah, we are talking about solutions, but the solution depends on solutions to other issues, and supply side issues that are flagged here. Now we are coming to the last presentation by Mr. Munirul Islam. Over to you.
So you have both PDF and PPT? PPT is fine. This is the PDF version. Can I change it? Okay. Yeah, understand. Thank you very much. Distinguished moderators, dear panel of discussions, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Welcome to my presentation. This presentation is entitled "The Delegate Balance: Analyzing the Energy Vulnerability Economic Transformation Nexus in Asian Nations Amidst Geopolitical Risk." So this is Muhammad Munirul Islam. I'm the PhD researcher at Graduate School of Economics and Management, Ural Federal University, Ekaterinburg, Russia, and I'm also an assistant professor at Bangladesh Institute of Governance and Management. And this institute is affiliated with the University of Dhaka. So for this presentation will take not more than 10 minutes. I hope you all cooperate me. Before going to my presentation, I would like to show the contents. First and foremost, I'll describe the motivation of this study, the research objective, theoretical foundation, empirical model, materials and method, empirical findings, last but not the least, conclusion and policy recommendations. So, dear audience, you know, energy and economic growth or transformation, what we say, these are highly dependent on each other. You know, economic transformation is the process. I think that is the transitionary period that one economy wants to shift to the other level of the development. And in that transition of the economic process or economic transformation, energy has been the key tools, and that is mainly sole for developing the economic process or economic transformation. But if there is the occurrence of energy vulnerability, then usually what we see there is the lack of access of the energy, utilization process. We experience the unutilization of the energy, price fluctuations, and more use of the different types of fossil fuel energy, and that mainly work as a environmental stressors, and that create impede the flow of economic growth or economic transformation. So overall, if there is the energy vulnerability, usually we see there is the constraints against the economic transformation process, and this issue is fully observable in the developing countries. Like these countries mainly witness the unbalanced energy consumption and mismanagement of the resources, and that mainly hampers the overall process of economic transformation. In that case, in Asian nations, they are shift from underdevelopment to developing spectrum of the economy, and here energy vulnerability and its consequences enormously observable. So alongside with energy vulnerability, these countries also face different types of political instability and geostrategic issues. Although political instability directly impacts the economic transformation process, but geopolitical turmoil or different types of events like nuclear threats, war threats, and terrorist threats that have the significant or detrimental consequences on the economic transformation process of these countries like Asian countries. So from that point of view, we have developed or formulated our research question: how energy vulnerability affect the economic transformation process of Asian nation in the context of different geopolitical turmoils or geopolitical events. So based on our research question, so we set our research objective. Our objective is to examine the impact of energy vulnerabilities on economic transformation process of Asian countries. Here we specify the advanced and developing countries and aggregated Asian countries. So our contribution is enormous. So this is the first study we considered. We see the nexus between energy vulnerability and economic transformation process. And we developed one energy vulnerability index with the combination of 16 economic and energy and environmental related factors, followed by following the one of the great researchers, Dong and others. They published on papers in World Development, the prestigious journal. We followed their technique. And for making this index, we also consider Mahalanobis distance calculation method. Economic transformation, in calculating the economic transformation, we have considered 12 service sector dynamics that consider agriculture, mining, manufacturing, and others. And we considered the service sector, these 12 elements of the service sector is the economic transformation and proxy of the economic transformation. And we developed a dual economy theory and economic model of Lewis economic model just for developing the theoretical foundation. So our theoretical foundation is like this dual economy. So if we see the Asian context, this economy, we usually see the two types of context here. One is traditional sector with low productivity and modern sector with high productivity. So these countries are mainly from transitioning from lower or underdevelopment to the higher development trajectory. So in that sense, dual economy is completely applicable here. And Lewis model. So here we also see the characteristics. These economies are mainly shifting from agrarian society to the industrial one. So in that case, we also consider the Lewis model. And here we also see that labor and capital are the fundamental resources, and that can speed up the economic transformation process. So, and I also mentioned, so currently geopolitical events that are very influential in affecting the economic transformation process. So based on it, we have developed a theoretical model. So our theoretical models are here. And our empirical model, so we use the traditional Cobb-Douglas production function. Finally, our output. So here is the model. Economic transformation is the function of labor capital, energy vulnerability, and geopolitical risk. So time is very short, so I am going faster. This is the materials and method, our dependent variable. It consists of some of these elements we see here, and main independent variables are the energy vulnerability index. So it is the combination of the energy access, energy efficiency, clean energy development, total energy consumption, and energy dependence. Based on it, we have developed our main independent variables, that is energy vulnerability. And we also consider labor force, and we also consider the gross fixed capital formation, and geopolitical risk we also considered. And Caldera and Icovilio 2022, they developed this geopolitical risk index, and it is published in the prestigious journal American Economic Review. So our sample 17 countries, disaggregated 13 developing countries and 4 advanced countries, and time frame 1992 to 2022. And our econometric methods, slope homogeneous we did, and quantile via moments, and finally we evaluate local multiple correlation techniques. So this is the empirical finding. Descriptive statistics, we see the huge deviation in the within and between function between option of the descriptive statistics. In that case, it is suitable for considering the quantile via moments. And slope homogeneity test, we see that in case of aggregate, advanced and developing Asian countries, so panel units and data has the there is the huge homogeneity, so p-value is significant. In that, as there is a significant presence of the slope homogeneity, so we have considered the quantile via moments. So this is our findings: energy vulnerability and economic transformation in Asian countries. Here we see the energy vulnerability has the significantly negative response of economic transformation to energy vulnerability. Labor force contribution is positive, and economic transformation positive response towards the capital formation. But geopolitical risk has no significant influence. This is true for the aggregate Asian countries. And in advanced Asian countries, the same result: energy vulnerability negatively impact the economic transformation. Here, geopolitical risk is also insignificant, and this is also true for the Asian countries. And for specify the result, we also use the evaluate local multiple correlation technique for advanced and developing Asia's country. So here, this is the technique. It mainly helps understand about the how EVI and EVI means energy vulnerability and economic transformation are related to each other. So there is the some discussion here. Time scale 2.4 and 4.8. So 2.4 usually it is considered the short run, and 4.4 it is considered the long run consequences. So here is the every country specific correlations between energy vulnerability and economic transformation. So time is very limited, so I am going faster. Finally, the conclusion: we observe the detrimental consequences of the energy vulnerability and economic transformation, mainly in the booming market condition. Capital's role is totally positive but labor's contribution for aggregate Asia, it is positive, but negative for both advanced and developing Asia. This is because of what they are paying, that is outweighs the contribution of the labor in terms of their ways they are taking. Sorry, and geopolitical risk have no significant negative negative consequences towards the economic transformation, because these countries are mainly experience the inner side in inner political instability. The countries are but in that case geopolitical risk has no significant contribution. So our policy recommendation: First of all, these countries must have policymakers should prioritize the energy security measures and diversification of energy resources. And ultimate option is to use different types of renewable energy resources that can also help dependence on fossil fuel-based non-renewable energy consumption process. And finally, labor's efforts are insignificant or not positive in terms of advanced and developing Asia. In that sense, their skill development is important. Finally, as we see that there is no potential consequence of the geopolitical events, but future cannot say, because geopolitical events are prevailing in different countries enormously. So this country's economic transformation can be hampered by these geopolitical events. Thank you very much for your patience hearing. If you have questions, floor is open, you can ask me the question.
Thank you, Mr. Munirul Islam. That's pretty much our presentation, 4 papers presentation. And the last one got very, should I say, important implication for Bangladesh. Bangladesh undergoing some transformation itself, with economic structure. And the model that Mr. Islam has used suggests that as the economy grows in terms of GDP per capita or standard living, its energy intensity goes up per unit of GDP, more energy required to produce one. This is because of the economic transformation. We are moving from agriculture, which is not as energy intensive, to manufacturing, which is a lot more energy intensive compared to others. And so economic vulnerability, transformation requires energy supply, and vulnerability will hamper that transformation. So like I said, this is very important paper for Bangladesh. Now, we have designated discussant. He's my colleague as well. So we work very closely during our day job. Mr. Saqib bin Amin. He is everything energy economists want to be. So over to you. You got 15 minutes to cover 4 papers, man.
Good afternoon to all of you.
If I may borrow 1 minute. Just wondering, Professor Marieb and Dr. Shohag, are you online?
Yes, we are listening.
Okay.
Yes, me too.
Good afternoon to all of you. It's a real honor to share the stage with our Honorable Dean, Professor Helal Ahmed, and other distinguished presenters. So thank you very much, Sanim, for organizing such a lovely event. So it's actually the subject, energy security, is very close to my heart. So I did my PhD on the macroeconomic aspect of energy economics, and I used to teach the energy economics and policy at North University. And I always share with my students one of the few fundamentals of the energy economics. The supply of reliable and affordable energy is the prerequisite of the sustainable development. So energy is the lifeblood of the economy. So without energy, you cannot do anything. Energy is required in the household activities. Energy is required in the production-related activities. So energy is everywhere. So in order to, without ensuring a certain amount of energy, no country progressed a certain level of the development. So energy is a very crucial instrument in the development trajectory of any country, development or developing countries. So let me focus on a few of the stylized facts. According to the 2023 statistics of BP Statistical Review of World Energy, suggested that during the last 10 years, energy use actually experienced an average growth rate of 1.4%. It's the last 10 years, and records, the available statistics also shows that like 82% of this growing demand made from 3 energy resources. What are those 3 resources? Natural oil, natural gas, and coal. So this is sort of a bit challenging and crucial in a sense, because you can see that most of the countries nowadays, the worldwide, are trying to slow down the sort of the global warming issues. So there is a tendency of the country, so most of the countries, they are expected to slow down the low carbon transition in many countries across the world. So if this is the case, like, 82% of the, energy comes from the fossil fuels, and how can we reach that target? And apart from that, what is evident at this moment, there are some sort of geopolitical tensions, as mentioned by a few of the authors, and we can also experience some sort of, fluctuations in the volatility in the energy price, also currency devaluation. So this energy security is very crucial at this moment. So all the papers presented in this platform today are very time relevant, and I congratulate all those presenters, local and from Russia. So all these papers, studies, I think a few of these are actually still in the working stage, have the potential to guide the policymakers to come up with some sort of real time relevant policies. So let me focus on the technical side of the paper so that the authors can actually enrich the paper with some sort of technical issues. So if I focus on the first paper regarding the navigating geopolitical convergence, analyzing the policy implications of China's rare earth element supply on Europe's clean energy revolution. So the paper used the gravity model framework to set up their specification. But I have a quick question. I was wondering whether any of the specifications are augmented by the multiple trade resistance variables. It might be covered in the presentation, but the slide or the paper that are being supplied, I did not find that particular aspect, the multilateral trade resistance variables. If not, I refer to the Anderson and Van Winkop book, Gravity with Gravitas, a solution to the border puzzle, and another scholarly article, Finestra, 2016, Advanced International Trade, Theory and Evidence for a Robustness Check. So the reason I'm asking this point, bilateral trade flows are dependent on the relative accessibility of trading partners with respect to other nations, in addition to the, country-specific trade variables. At this moment, the relationship, it does not limit within the relationship with two countries. It also depends on the other countries as well as. So the importance of multilateral trade resistance variable is very important for this sort of study. So this is one of my comment. And then I can see if there is a presence of the cross-sectional dependence in the model variables, residuals from each specification need to be tested to ensure that all the common unobservable patterns are completely accounted for in the models. Additionally, they have used the quantile via moments estimators, so which do not employ the cross-sectional averages or any other transformations of the cross-sectional dependent variables. The model specification should specifically address the demonstrate how this method manages the impact of cross-sectional dependence. Furthermore, the quantiles via moments is a new quantile estimation method which gives easier alternatives for quantile analysis in compared to the other available options or methods. So this is suited the most when dealing with incidental fixed effect parameters. Since it is a moment estimator, it is a slope homogeneous in nature. Okay. However, the slopes are found to be heterogeneous across the cross-section, not across the quantiles, if the Pesheron Yamagata is used. I think the author could perhaps recheck the slope homogeneity test using different cross-sectional settings. Also, employing the slope homogeneous estimators could be instrumental in this particular study. Furthermore, I am just a bit curious whether there is a good reason not to use the dynamic specification as well as, because if you look at the equations, model equations, the dynamic component is missing, at least from my understanding. So it is also evident that the coefficient of some of the key variables, for example, solar, sol, wind, are very small in terms of the magnitude. So does this result have any specific economic implication? So perhaps the author could actually enlighten this area. And I also believe that clarity on the definition of economic size would also need to be firmly mentioned in this study. So this is my comments on the first paper. Now I move on to the second paper, which is the renewable energy and Bangladesh RMG industry and exploration on the rooftop solar adoption of RMG factories in the digital platform of MAP in Bangladesh. Which showcases the outreach of the solar energy adoption by the RMG factories, Dhaka districts of Bangladesh. As already mentioned by our chair, the importance of this study for the Bangladesh perspective. And we can also see from this study that the large factories are ahead of other types of small and medium factories in terms of using the solar devices. Furthermore, they also reveal that stand-alone buildings tend to have greater solar adoption. My main observation, actually I have already mentioned this is the work is in progress. So my main observation about the study is that even though you have claimed it's a quantitative analysis, am I right? So you have claimed it's a quantitative research. It appears to be more of an explanatory descriptive study. But I think still we are working on this paper. So to be more precise, it resembles a program like a dissemination report from whatever you presented at this platform. Perhaps you could consider adding some theoretical and modeling aspect to justify the claim it is a quantitative study. And furthermore, obvious respective findings are always interesting. However, I suggest you may enrich your work by some employing some strong econometric modeling techniques which can extract many propensities or causes. You can also check the Bragg's comprehensive survey data to further improve your paper to make it publishable. And after the revisions are made, I'm pretty sure the paper will have a great relevance for the policymakers in Bangladesh. And now moving on to the third paper by Kaji Shohak. It's a brilliant paper, I can see. It comes with some sort of policies. The suggested policies are justified in light of the current situation, which are also evident by the result. And he actually used the dose response function approach in this paper. And the strategy works particularly well when the treatment effect is continuous as opposed to the binary. So it's a good initiative. And my key observations are listed down below. So yes, I can see that there is a designated section on the theoretical perspective. So despite dedicating a section to the theoretical underpinnings, discussion needs to be more in-depth and still requires a critical review and thorough revisions, especially in terms of the theoretical aspects. Then the author may consider justifying the reasons for choosing the 5 different treatments or stringency levels. I understand that there are no hard and fast guidelines when selecting a treatment level, but you can perhaps mention a few words to justify the reason of selecting 5 different treatments. Then I am also keen to know why the study is limited to using only the quadratic dose response function rather than other. I suggest using other specification, for example, linear dose response, third order polynomial dose response, just for robustness checks. And it's likely that some of the variables are non-stationary in the study. How these variables enter into the analysis should be discussed before mentioning any policy suggestion. Moving on, the explanations are fairly credible, no doubt, even though there are a few issues in the current form that need to be addressed. For instance, discussion on the upward movement of coal, coal and environmental policy stringency. One explanation could be, in this way, industries and power plants may opt for cheaper imports, contributing to an increased reliance on the Russian coal market. How far is this statement valid? So the authors could perhaps elaborate on this point more. On the other hand, under what circumstances or dynamics would a high environmental policy stringency result in a specialized Russian coal market where the prices are competitive for OECD member states? Is this the environmental policy stringency only regulates the domestic markets or perhaps something different? So I expect some sort of explanation on this matter. It is also recommended to revisit and meticulously amend the arguments taking into account appropriate circumstances and evidences. And readers might be also interested in reading and understanding the author's insightful examination of the paradoxical facts. Perhaps the authors could enlighten a bit more regarding the paradoxical concepts. Now, the fourth paper, which is on the delicate balance analyzing the energy vulnerability economic transformation nexus in Asian nations amidst the geopolitical risks. Like, once again, this is a good paper which finds the detrimental consequences of energy vulnerability on economic transformation through the service sector's contribution. And my comments are as follows. I'm just wondering, when you are talking about the labor force, okay, so why the labor force is proxied by the output of GDP per worker? Because I can see the total employed population is available. Data for the total employed population can be compiled from the ILO state or Penn World. And looking at the data summary, I also have a feeling that data did not go through a natural logarithm transformation. Is there any specific reason for that? If not, then how the production function is transformed in the econometric form? Or is it the case that descriptive statistics table shows the unadjusted data? That is another quick query. My comments about the econometric sanctions are the same as those I made about the first paper regarding the cross-sectional issues. Moving on, the authors may also provide some clarifications on the validity of the estimations for the types of Cobb-Douglas production functions. Why you have actually specified Cobb-Douglas production function. You have some other alternatives. And while certain quantiles displays positive environmental vulnerable index AVI coefficients, others do not show any significant coefficient. So you may add a bit more discussion on this particular issue. And since the geopolitical risks, that particular variable seems to be found insignificant, there may be a concern about why should policymakers take into consideration the potential consequences of the geopolitical events, because the variable itself is not significant. So moreover, how well does the result fit in the existing dynamics of the Asian region? So this is a quick feedback technique from the technical aspect. I think it would help all of you to enrich the quality of your paper. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sakib bin Amin, for very thorough and very focused. And I'm sure all the presenters and authors of the papers will have opportunity to respond back to him if you want to. Now, most interesting section of the session. The floor is open to you. I'm sure there are a lot of ground covered, and you may have a lot of questions. Any volunteers? Right, okay, we're running out of energy, are we? Let me start with a few. I think, again, it could be, could be out in the lunch. So when you're talking about energy vulnerability and economic transformation means, as I suggested, moving from, broadly agriculture sector to manufacturing, light manufacturing, heavy manufacturing, and then service sector in terms of their share in GDP and all that, right? So that is driven by many things, and energy vulnerability is one. Can you sort of suggest what are the direct links between energy vulnerability and economic transformation? Again, I'm just so that's one question to you. And about the second paper, renewable energy and Bangladesh RMG industry, I know the key drivers you have elaborated through the numbers you presented, right? Who are the adopters, who are the laggards, and whatnot. If you can identify few drivers for the adoption, the rate of adoption and all that, that would be good for our audience. And also, Kaji Shohag, OECD countries, environmental policy stringency and dependency on Russia's energy supply, right? Again, I'm, interested to know the environmental stringency is driven by many other things, including their international commitments and things, right? And Russian gas supply and other fossil fuel supply is critical. Europe has been dependent on that. OECD country I know you are focusing on, but EU in particular. I'm just wondering, why you are especially focusing on Russia when, in terms of energy, there are other alternatives that have been tested in Europe, like nuclear energy and all that. Finally, I know we're talking about supply side problem for rare earth elements. I'm talking to Professor Maria. So what are alternatives? Should we also try out some technological innovations to reduce our demand for rare earth elements? Right, we got another from the audience.
I am Ishrat Hussain. I'm working at SANEM as a senior research associate. So my question is to Dr. Kaji Sohag. I was wondering that you got the finding that the stringent policy have a positive impact on the coal dependency. So the more the stringent the policy, the more dependency on coal. I was wondering what's the rationale between this finding? Thank you.
Any more questions from the floor, or I will go straight to the authors, the presenters. Why not at this stage we go back to the presenters and for your response to both our discussions, comments, as well as comments from me and Ishrat. You can nominate. Why not you start?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the nice question. First of all, Professor, I want to answer your questions. How energy vulnerability mainly affect the economic transformation? So I think for me, it is like this. For example, if we don't have energy, like if you want to contribute in the agriculture sector, so if we consider Bangladesh, in Bangladeshi case, we see if we don't, in terms of irrigation, we use the different types of energies. So if energy is not available there, so irrigation in the agriculture, that could be hampered. So energy vulnerability is like that. If there is a lack of utilization or access to the energy, then that can hamper the overall economic transformation process. So I think this is the straightforward answer from me. And our respected discussion also asked some of the questions. First of all, natural logarithmic issue, because I have used the traditional or standard calculus production function. Yes, in all the variables I transformed into natural logarithmic form, except the energy vulnerability index, because this is the index that has the negative values. So in that case, I didn't transform into natural logarithmic growth. Thank you for your suggestions. And you have, okay, I have used here not labor force, I have considered here labor productivity. Labor productivity I have used in the model. I think it makes sense. And you have another question there. The question is some cases insignificant, but in the extreme quantile, it is positively significant. Yes, of course, it's the good question. I think this is the threshold level. This particular, till this particular quantiles, it is insignificant. This is the threshold level of the insignificant. And if we consider the lower quantile is the bearish market condition, and if we consider the upper quantile, extreme quantile is the bullish market condition or booming market conditions. So this is the, a very good insight for the, policymakers, for the researchers, that in the bearish market condition, there is no significance, but in the booming market condition, bearish market condition, bullish market condition, it has the significance, mainly in the long term, in the extreme quantile, it has the significant influence. So in that case, policymakers or other related to these sectors, they can consider that, okay, in the short term, they have no concern, but in the long term, there. But so it is also important that
I might have to intervene. I think you have designated 1 minute to respond. In the interest of time, can we move on? Because this is the beginning of a discussion, so we can have discussion outside, okay? So if I can move to Messrs. Sadil Shahjahan and Faizul Islam to respond.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir, for the question, and thank you for the discussion. Your valid the points for the paper of improving. So yes, we are still working, and also the project is collecting data from Naranganj and also from Gazipur and Chittagong. So after completion the data collection, so we can also show some other side of the region or the more the cross-sectional data. So then this time maybe the audience can get some more gesture from this the data point. So yes, we are still working. So thank you for the valid reason, valid the points you are raising. Thank you.
Thank you. Now can we go back to Dr. Kaji Shohag, if you would like to respond to the comments, suggestions?
Sure. Well, the first question is from you. Probably why I have chosen Russian energy rather than other energy. So there are three main reasons. The first reason is that geographical location. So Russia is located in Europe, so most of the OECD countries, European Union, and they are they used to buy Russian energy, and it used to be cheaper than other sort of energy. First, the reason is that Russia was supplying through the gas pipeline. So the effect is that many European economy, including German economy, their industrial sector flourished. So what happened when they stopped buying it? So they are trying to find out the alternative. Alternative is the LNG, which is portable gas from the United States, which probably the 3 times higher. So the German could maybe cut the energy consumption from the demand side. So they are consuming less. Also, they are going to like a deindustrialization. So, the many companies, they already left Germany. So that was my main motivation to look at why Russian dependency on Russian energy. And secondly, someone asked the policy stringency higher, why the coal dependency on Russian coal and dependency was higher. So it is basically also I was shocked when I see the result. Then I'll try to look into the sample. Those countries keep buying Russian coal. So first of all, it was cheaper. The second reason is that maybe technological rigidity. So they simply cannot change that existing technology with some other technology that can be compatible with other kind of energy. So maybe it is possible in long run, but the cost is very higher. Probably this country was not ready to accept this kind of higher cost of production. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And one thing that popped out immediately is you might see some of the legacy coal-fired generation in Europe, whether they have been reignited or not. So another food for thought. Now, finally, to Professor Marieb, would you like to respond to the questions? Professor Marieb, you're with us? Right. I think we are already over time, and I suggested that you take the conversation outside this session. It's always easy. And I know as a chair, I was given the privilege to talk about this session overall, but I know we are over time, and if I say anything, that wouldn't really add anything new to the conversation that we have had so far. Just one thing I would like to suggest, that this is a very rich, very covering a diverse range of issues. It doesn't only cover energy itself, its supply and demand, but also on policies. And they cover not only developing countries, also developed countries, transition, global geopolitical vulnerability. So a lot for us to take away from this session. And the 4 papers and the 5 presenters did an excellent under the time constraint. I know we have a very activist timekeeper, and they done very well. And thank you, our discussant. So can I ask you to put your hands together for this, for the panelists? Thank you.